Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So this one is called Bold Deceivers, which you kind of foreshadowed a little bit earlier. And again, a very Canadian scene where in the far background are Douglas fir, I don't know, kind of fir trees.
Evergreens.
There is snow on them, hanging on. And then there's like a big wide field of white, of snow. In the foreground is what looks like maybe the gate, of like a wooden gate. And on it are these two magpies. I'm assuming they're magpies.
Yes, they're magpies.
Yes, magpies, just sort of looking at each other. There's just a little hint of blue, which is how you see a magpie. There's always a little hint of blue and purple in the magpie. Later, I'm going to show you a photograph of how these birds manifest in Hong Kong. And it's going to blow your mind.
Okay.
They also have magpies in Hong Kong.
Uh-huh.
So here, the relationship, one is looking at the other while one is looking away. It's kind of like they're an old couple that's been married for such a long time. So one of the magpies, one leg's up on the fence or the wood, and one leg is kind of down. And it's a very quiet, because of the snow, there's this feeling in my mind, this quiet, calm, hushed, cold, but there's this warmth between them of these magpies. And if people who know magpies, they're also very smart. Are they corvids as well?
They're corvids as well.
Yeah. So they're also very smart.
I remember them from Alberta when I lived in Alberta, because they're all over the place. But they don't live in BC, at least not in the West Coast.
Yeah, I haven't seen any here. No. So take it away. Why this one? What's up with this one?
Well, this one is my third kind of technique, and this is I've started working with colored pencils. Mm-hmm. Because I thought to myself, it's a colored pencil drawing.
Amazing.
Or a colored pencil painting, if you want to say that.
Amazing.
And again, because it took me so long to complete my painting, my egg tempera painting, I thought I'd try colored pencil.
Right.
And I'm just amazed at how complicated it is.
Okay.
And remember, you used to get the old Prismacolors when we were in art school. I mean, that's how long. Anyway, there are a lot of artists that work in this technique, and it's got layering, and it's got burnishing, and it's really a neat technique. And I'm so absolutely taken away with it that I think I might just stick with it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, maybe it's because for Calgary and me skiing, and I love stuff with snow in them.
Yep.
I do quite a few things that have snow in them. But the whole composition, I found one magpie on one of my photography sites, and another one, and I found that it's kind of the corner of a gatepost. I got that from another picture, and then I found the trees in another picture, and then I just fudged in the snow background. So when I do things, I don't take a photograph and copy it exactly. I try to end up putting my own composition in. And I just love this one. And actually, it took me about instead of 3 months, it took me about maybe 3 weeks to draw. And it would be probably about, let's see, you put it in centimeters.
So we'll do it again. So let's put it in inches first.
I'd say it would probably be about 19 by 19 or something like that.
Okay.
Inches.
Yeah. So it's square.
It's square. I like the square format. Yeah.
So looking closer, the detail on the wings, and I love the hint of the blue. So I had a dog who was a Shar Pei of sorts, and the fur on her cheeks was this really fine kind of density. And we always used to say, it's like feathers. And then when you look closely at these two, it's like the detail of your drawing ultimately is so well executed and so subtle. Yeah, it's really great. Like is it just I'm a Canadian and I love this stuff, or is it like?
It's hard to say. It may be. I mean, it is uniquely Canadian, mind you. You say there are magpies kind of everywhere. Really, I mean, they're in Australia. They're all a different kind of. They maybe sound different. They're slightly different, maybe, but. you say with the blue in them, you take a look and there's so many colors. It's this iridescence on feathers.
Yeah.
And you can look, and when you start to draw it, I mean, I've learned so much about birds since I've been kind of using them as subjects. But I mean, there's fine things, there's purples and lavenders. There's all these colors in iridescence. And you end up getting it in there, but when you start studying it, you realize just how much color there is in something that really looks just like, well, maybe a plain old blue or something like
black
that.
Or whatever, yeah.
And this particular piece, I really liked it. And I just started on Instagram a couple of years ago. So I posted this on Instagram. And I got a call maybe the next morning from someone who happens to be an artist himself who lives in Victoria.
Oh, okay.
And he said, I want to buy it, which he did. So I was quite pleased. He bought it. I did go and have it scanned in high resolution so that I could end up making archival digital prints of it. But that's one of my faves. Just it really is. I just love the composition. I don't know what it is. And you learn this in art school, the composition. I mean, this angle of the fence coming up and the bird's long tail this way and the horizontal. There's it's just a lovely composition. I think even the trees that are coming down and kind of focusing, they kind of lean in towards the actual birds themselves.
Right.
And of course, the birds are in a relationship. You can tell. They're not. They look like they're. I figured that they were two buddies, looking for mischief.
Sure. Okay, well, let me rewind some more a little bit in terms of you're 10 years old. Mm-hmm. You're being shaped by the things around you, right? The trees, the animals, the winters, all the summers, all the stuff. Why illustration?
I really don't know. I mean, I've always wanted to be an artist. I used to draw horses all the time. And I can even remember when I was in kindergarten, I remember sitting at tables. I remember this long ago. The little kids wanted me to draw stuff for them.
Oh, for them. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I asked my mother, when I was in grade 11, I wanted to quit and go because the art school in Calgary was so close. And she said, no, you're going to finish your senior matriculation. You're not going anywhere until, which was quite smart of her.
Sure.
But I mean, I just knew that that's all I wanted to do.
Nice.
It's a blessing. And I don't know where the talent came in my family because I have two sisters and a brother, and none of them have the same talent. I think it came from my father's side of the family. I think there was a couple, but I mean, who knows? It's a gift. It's just an absolute gift. And
because sometimes maybe it's not something you need to understand. You can just accept it.
Yeah.
I think, did I mishear that you said something earlier, very quickly while at the door or something? You said that you're a Métis?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How does that influence, or what does that mean for somebody?
I don't know. I mean, because my mother was born in Lebret, Saskatchewan, and she actually was a day student at a residential school.
Okay. And
she moved to Calgary and met my father, and they married. And she didn't identify as Métis. In fact, I think she just didn't want to talk about it. So we were French Canadian, whatever it might be. But I really think because of the things that I choose to draw, it might have something to do with that particular.
Okay.
I mean, I can't see it. It would have to end up being something almost incomprehensible, because I certainly wasn't kind of brought up in the wild or anything like that. But I mean, I've always liked animals. I've just always liked animals. I was crazy, and I owned horses. But the birds, I don't know. It's just.
Sure. Okay. Well, it could be ineffable, but let's bring it back.
Ineffable. That's the word I was trying to.
Ineffable. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go back then to, well, first of all, for somebody who's listening in from Singapore, the Philippines, Australia, what does Métis mean?
It means technically that in your background there is native Indian. I still refer to them as Indian. I mean, it is the Indian Act in Canada.
Right.
And originally it was intermarrying with, usually it was French traders like Courrier de Bois, that kind of. It's really more of a Saskatchewan prairie kind of a thing. I know some people say that Métis that are living in the eastern part of Canada aren't really true Métis, but It's a definite. You're if you want to be rude about not rude, but I mean you're a half breed.
Yeah, it is shooting it raw. You can say whatever you want.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. But I mean, we didn't even know we were had anything. Had any Native Indian in us until my brother ended up searching for it down in. Oh, excuse me.
Nope, there's no excuses. It's totally fine. It's acceptable. Word will. It could be. Is it the Anthropology Museum? No.
No, it isn't. It's the Church of Latter-day Saints. They are Mormons.
Okay.
They're the ones that have this huge, enormous. They've
database?
got records. Database.
Really?
Yes.
The
they
Mormons.
Really do. The Mormons do.
I just learned something fantastic
well,
today.
there you are.
There we are.
But
Here I am.
my brother ended up searching through, and he actually found kind of the record of my ancestry, which goes back to probably about 4 generations before you got to be not Métis, but you had the Indian, marrying the Caucasian.
So, like, you get shaped by the family you're born into. You get shaped by the culture that you're, responding in, that either consciously or subconsciously pulls you and pushes you in different directions. In this case, you have an ability to express yourself visually. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You have a sensibility that attracts you to the outdoors, to appreciating fauna.
Oh, yes.
So was there, or are there repeating experiences where you come face to face with the outdoors that really shape you? So, for example, in Hong Kong, I'll just...
okay.
Yeah, so in Hong Kong, I like to do wildlife photography, and there are classical-looking... what are these called? Like,
representational?
No, these birds. So
magpies.
So they're magpies, and they look like standard magpies, the big, beautiful, smart.
Yeah.
And there are these other kinds of birds called I think the red-billed magpie or something, and I'll show you the image later, and it'll blow your mind.
Oh, really?
And it's one of these moments that when you connect with them, like with a crow, with a dog, with a deer, with whatever, that there's something that transcends just human culture or whatever. So I've spoken a lot. Take it away. Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, as far as you can't very well have that in Vancouver because, I mean, there is lots of green spaces. But, I mean, I think because I'm working so much, I notice things even when I'm walking up. I take a walk every day. I usually walk out for about a half an hour every morning. And you always see something. I think that this is something that when you're an artist, you end up looking for things, and it's almost like unconscious. But I really notice things.
You're sensitive.
I am. And I think it's just kind of not a training, but it's just something you think, well, I'm looking for my next subject. Like, I've just started a new piece. I just finished a very complicated drawing of again, it's a Eurasian owl. And I'm looking either through photography, but it's not generally from my environment here. I get maybe some background, but I get inspired just by looking at even the leaves, and you think, it's just the way that if you're ending up trying to create something like this, it's your mind think.
Sure.
And, again, it's just something that's, ineffable.
Yeah.
It's just unconscious. And when I'm towards the end of a piece that I've been working on, I'm thinking, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And that's what you're even more conscious than what you feel like doing.
Yeah, like I did performance art in Montreal, and how I would explain it to people is I was saying, well, you're never quite satisfied. Well, I'm not projecting on you, but this is like how I put it. I was never quite satisfied with the performance I was doing just then. It's the next one that's really the one. Yeah. And so in my mind, it's always the next one, however it manifests, right? It's
interesting. It's very interesting. I mean, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I always want to do better.
The bit of a perfectionist. Have you seen your work? Have you seen your work? You're amazing.
Honestly, I still look at some of these. Like I just was, I applied and I was accepted to the Artists for Conservation.
Yeah.
And it's a worldwide, they had their annual festival up at Van Dusen Gardens just about a month ago.
Okay.
And I was accepted, and I was just so proud to be accepted. But I got a hardcover book from this particular exhibition that they had, and I look at the work in there and I think, oh my God, it is so good. I just never think I'm good enough.
Ah, well, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, well,
I just because there's so many incredible artists.
There really are.
Yeah,
really and you're one of them.
Well, I like to think so, but
just read the teleprompter. It says, "Oh, thank you." No, you really are.
Thank you.
You really are.
Thank you. I mean, I'm so lucky that in retirement, and especially through COVID, that I had something to do.
Yeah.
I look forward to getting up and working. I just absolutely love it. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky.
I think the gratitude's important because that's and being conscious of it. So, for example, like.
Yes.
The premise of this podcast is, that life is a gift.
Yes, it is. It is indeed.
And if it is, how do you make every second count?
Yeah.
And so how it manifests for you is to make these incredible prints and expressions that are just fantastic. And so how do we turn this little quirk in who you are into something that somebody who's listening will kind of say, okay, well, I'll pursue that. So did you ever hesitate? Or have you always been, no, this is just who I am and this is what I'm going to do?
I have never felt sorry in my life pretty well for anything I've ever done. I really
so
haven't.
Not Canadian.
No, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back and change. I mean, obviously there's things I wish I hadn't smoked for so long. I mean, things like that. But I mean, it's just something to me that I've just sailed through life, to me, doing things, they're challenging. I mean, I took off, I just decided I'd drop everything and move to London, which I did for 2 years.
Please say London, England, and not London, Ontario.
England, London, England, because my dad was born in Scotland, and I had so I got a British passport.
Okay.
And I worked over there, being the kind of design director at the British Airways when they did all the reconfiguration of their logo and all their
respect.
It was not me that did the designing.
No, but,
I was just doing the supervision of it, and I just really loved it. It was wonderful. But after a couple of years, I thought, I want to come home.
Sure.
You don't have I was about 45 at the time. And you don't kind of make the friends and the connections.
I'm laughing because I didn't like the weather in London, whereas the weather in Vancouver is the same.
Well, the weather over there was just bloody awful.
How's it different than now? That's so good.
But I mean, you're so close to everything. I managed to,
true.
and they sent me places. So that when I was working for them, I went to New York, I went to Rome, I went to Paris, and it was all. But I really appreciated coming home and realizing what I had at home. I'm very optimistic. I've always been very optimistic.
Yeah, it radiates. Like but seriously, and the fact that you choose all these are choices. So you choose subjects, you choose compositions, you choose titles that are whimsical, that there's a brightness to them, and it's a reflection of who you are. I absolutely adore your work. I want people to check it out.
Oh, good.
And it's mastery.
I have a show coming up on Granville Island.
Come tell people, fly to Vancouver, come see the show.
Well, this is Granville Island, of course, is probably Vancouver's biggest tourist attraction, and that's for the studio that I worked at for 20 years. And one of the people that are there, his name is Peter Braun. He owns a printmaking studio called New Leaf Editions, and he has a gallery.
New Leaf
Editions? Yep. Yes, and it's right near the Granville Island Hotel. But I'm having 12 of my colored pencil drawings are all being hung on Monday. And the show will open on the 8th of November, and it will go on until the 15th of December.
Sure.
And there's an opening happening on Saturday, the 12th of November. So. And
if you can't spring for the flight, just check out the website.
Yes, check out the website.
Elizabeth.
It's something that I'm quite excited about. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what a treat to meet you.
Well, nice meeting you too, Rand. It was delight. It was just a delight.
Great. You're fantastic. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.